Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to what is a Carrow Road that's dropped significantly in temperature since I was last outside anyway, in the last half an hour or so. Also quite dark here this afternoon, but I'm sure the lights will be turned on at some stage. Norwich City hosting Sunderland this afternoon as their push for the Championship top six continues, and we will bring you the team news as it drops in a minute or so. Connor Safford joined by Paddy Davitt back at Carrow Road, and we have seen our photographer Paul Chesterton has been outside, and we have seen youngsters Finley Welsh and Ken Abo come off the team coach. I think we were expecting, because of Norwich City's growing injury list as it has in the last week or so. Onel Hernandez, of course, ruled out for the season with a broken foot. Marcelino Nunez missing today, and the midweek clash against Middlesbrough with a hip injury. That will open up some vacancies for, you'd expect, the young players to be involved this afternoon. And we shall see in a matter of seconds just when that team news drops, how Norwich City line up this afternoon. In fact, I think we are about merely seconds away from learning Norwich City's 11. I think we can have a guess.
Barnes to Nunez would be my guess.
Yes, I suspect you're right. And here is the Norwich City 11. Gunning goal: Stacey, Hanley, Gibson, and Giannoulis as the back four. Sarah and McLean as the midfield two. Fasnacht and Sainz on either flank, with Barnes and Sargent up front. And Norwich's subs bench: George Long, Callum Fisher, Sam McCallum, Danny Bart, Jakob Sørensen, Finley Welsh, Liam Gibbs, Ken Abo, and Sydney Van Hooijdonk. So just to read you that 11 again, one change, as Paddy said: Nunez out, Barnes in, Gunning goal, Stacey, Hanley, Gibson, and Giannoulis as the back four. Sarah and McLean in the midfield two. Fasnacht and Sainz on either flank, as really Norwich City only have left, and Barnes and Sargent up front. The subs bench: Long, Fisher, McCallum, Bart, formerly of Sunderland, Sorensen, Welsh, Gibbs, Abo, and Van Hooijdonk. And I think that's probably, given all of the news that we heard this week, Paddy, in terms of team news, to be expected.
Yeah, your room for manoeuvres pretty severely limited now in the forward areas. But it's not lost on me after all he won't do anything with development talent, and he's blocking pathways and what have you, that his hand has been forced. But I'm looking down at that bench, and I know Fisher wasn't one who came through, but he's a very young player. Welch, Gibbs, Abo. There's plenty of young talent there. Maybe his hand has been forced. Whether we'll see the two younger elements, Welch and Abo, I don't expect we would see today, but especially with Van Hooijdonk in the forward areas. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, who would he take out of that 11 of the available players? Okay, Giannoulis and McCallum, there's a debate to be had. Sorensen isn't moving Zara or McLean on, so for me, it's pretty much named itself, hasn't it, that 11?
Yeah, I half wondered whether we'd see, because of the performance against Cardiff and whatnot, whether we'd see Jakob Sørensen come in the back line, but he stuck with that back line that he played at Ewood Park. Like you say, it's frustrating, isn't it, for Marcelino Nunez, because he's a player who's really, over the last couple of weeks, really developed some momentum and performed not just the free kick last week, although that was undoubtedly the headline grabber. There was a lot of excellent play in possession, as there was during those two Carrow Road games as well. So feels like an injury. I know it's not necessarily going to be long term, and he could be back for Rotherham next week, but it's frustrating for him and for Norwich, really, because when he's been on the pitch, they've looked in more control of game. Yeah,
I mean, obviously I wasn't at Ewood Park, but certainly the body of evidence before then. I mean, David said, I think it was to you after the Blackburn game, one of the first names on the team sheet now. Not just his technical quality, but the 13 kilometres or so that he's covering ground-wise. He is a big miss now. There's no doubt about it. It brings Sarah deeper. I think we can all agree that he's better further forward near the opposition box, so that's a negative for me. And just the control that Nunez was exerting on the ball, which, as we know, sort of post-Bristol was okay. We feel we've got ourselves a bit more defensively solid. The next thing now is to be better in possession and not, heaven forbid, the sort of what we saw against Southampton and teams like that, where they just pull away, even though they won the game, so unable to get any control of the ball or with it territory. Nunez was offering that. Now the onus falls on McLean and Zara, isn't it, to try and give them that degree of control. Today, less concerning for me, but certainly in the running, you definitely want Nunez back. There's no doubt about it.
And one thing, I mean, you've already touched upon Finley Welsh in terms of those wide areas, but I think Norwich started the season with about 7 wingers, and here we are sat in March and they've got 2 fit. So, hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Onel Hernandez, who also, I mean, not necessarily in terms of output, but definitely in terms of thrust and influence, had been kind of growing over the last few weeks as well. Although there was a nice assist, wasn't there, for Ashley Barnes against Watford? with the header. So there has been an improvement for him, but also with him and with him and Fashnak changing, you always had a different option off the bench. Certainly in terms of experience, Norwich don't really have that. I know Kenneth Bow has played out wide for the 23s, Finley Welsh as well. But again, we're talking about two guys who haven't made senior debuts to try and come in and affect it at such a crunch period in the season. So there's going to be a need, I guess, for Fashnak and Sainz to take on a little bit more responsibility. Not just today, but in the weeks to come as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But particularly Sainz for me, because it took David directly on Thursday. You know, we all can see the quality. The goal he scored against Coventry, majestic. But have we seen enough of that in these recent games? Not for me, really. He's kind of on the periphery a lot of the time. Yeah, you know, David didn't really take that baton and run with it. He was more or less happy with what he's getting from Sainz, and that's not me saying he hasn't shown enough, because he clearly has. And it's his first season, injury interrupted, first season in England. He's gonna be better for this experience. But now, in the context of no Rowe, no Arnell. Not a lot else in wide areas. He does need to, for me, step forward even more. And he's surely now fully acclimatised to what the Championship's all about and where he can profit and bring his undoubted quality to bear in those pockets in and around the final third, really. I'd just like to see a little bit more end product from him, because we know he's got it in his locker. We've seen enough of him already this season to think that he could be a game changer on this run into hopefully the top six.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you kind of flip them, really, because Fashnak has scored goals without necessarily at times having the performances, and Sainz has at points shown the performance without necessarily having the output. So you've got quite an unbalance there. But and if not, I mean, David referenced Liam Gibbs. Obviously, Finley Welsh is in that debate as well. But there isn't a huge amount there in terms of wide options to try and alter, isn't it? And that will be a concern, as I said, not just today, but for the remaining 12, 13 games or so.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like Rowe optimistically would be back sort of mid-April onwards.
Is that training, though? Is that you'd actually drop him in?
I mean, he didn't want to give any timeline. But the way he was talking to me, I'd be surprised if, we can't, particularly if there's a need for him, because we know, again, talking to game changers, he is one, no doubt about it. And it would be a gamble, but, by that stage of the season, what have they got to lose, really? So, but even that, I'm looking down at it, we've only just ticked into March. So if you've got another 6 weeks without John Rowe, then something needs to happen between now and then of the available options. And it's a good analogy that Fashnak has produced goals and maybe not kind of that exerted that influence over games necessarily. But I think he's going to have to start more than he comes off the bench, which it felt like that was his role now in this side, when obviously Arnell was sort of a bit further ahead of him in the pecking order, it felt, and Sainz has been getting regular starts and Johnny Rowe was fit. So, it's a bit of a revolving situation, or an evolving situation, sorry. So, but it's needs must now, because who else, when you look past Fashnak and Sainz, can really offer too much in wide areas? If we have to go down the Liam Gibbs route, then that really is rolling the dice, isn't it? So it has to come from these players starting today for me. And I've seen a few comments about why not play Zara in the 10, but then who plays in the centre of the park?
I guess.
Yeah, maybe you could go that route. Gibbs, yeah.
Gibbs, he doesn't play there, does he? That's about the only place he doesn't play.
It's the only one he doesn't mention him. But I could see that. But he's such an advocate of Barnes and Sargent, isn't he? So he's not going to veer too far away from that,
particularly at home.
And he's having now to sort of mix and match in other areas of his team. Is almost that consistency of selection at the top end of the pitch is one less headache for him to worry about.
Yeah, let's bring you the Sunderland team. They arrive at Carrow Road on the back of 3 straight defeats, as they did, it's worth mentioning, prior to the game in October, where they won 3-1. Here's their team: Patson in goal, Schilt 09, and Helder as the back 3, Hume, Ekwa, Neal, and Styles as a midfield 4, Bellingham and Mundell then with Hemir up front. Their subs bench: Bishop, Pembele, Burstow, Rusin, Barr, Anchuye, Rigg, Kelly, and Lavery as well. They're without Jack Clark, of course, the top scorer for them. Patrick Roberts as well, which is a name familiar to Norwich fans. Niall Higgins, loads and loads of names that they're out as well. So both teams experiencing injuries, but it is a big one today, Paddy, because you purely in terms of, obviously we'll get into the overall race, but particularly given the two teams, because what Norwich City can achieve here today with a win is push themselves 8 points ahead of Sunderland, which at this stage of the season would be pretty crucial. Obviously, defeat would then put Sunderland within 2 points of them. A draw would retain that 5 point cushion that is there at the moment. So, in terms of, I know everyone's talking about the push to the top 6, but in order to develop that cushion, Sunderland are in 10th from maybe the pack even below them. Yeah. Today's a fantastic opportunity to do just that.
Well, it is. I think Hull played Preston as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that was what the point I made to David again Thursday. And again, he shut it down with, I don't care. We'll just win. But if they'd have won last week at Blackburn, I think it was only Preston out of that clutch, because I think Hull and West Brom drew. Coventry got beat by Preston. There was ground to be made up. And now, given West Brom won yesterday evening, it's my boys, that's 7 points without a win today would feel quite big in terms of his 5th beyond them, and it just magnifies for me QPR winning, draw, and then last weekend as well. You had 4 points, which they should have been able to conceivably from winning positions. Yeah, exactly. And that just sort of cuts to the heart of the matter for me, really. Will they have it when push comes to shove? And, of course, now the injuries will get thrown in as mitigation, rightly. But will they have enough when we get to these stages now, in these type of dynamics? They're playing a team in and around them, put them further away, bolster your own chances. And then hopefully you get a positive result in the Hull Preston game. A draw, I guess, will be the best result all around there. Maybe a Preston win. Norwich, of course, have to play Preston yet. So, but all of that's immaterial. If you don't leave this pitch today at 4:45, 10:05, and you haven't got 3 points, then you're not putting your own house in order. So it doesn't really matter what other teams are doing. If you can't put away Sunderland at Carrow Road, even with these injuries, then you don't really deserve to be in the top 6 for me over the entirety of the piece. These are the games. And worth reiterating, while we've referenced 2 stumbles on the road in the last 2 games here, 6 wins in 7 in the league, and the other one was the draw against Southampton. They're as good as any on home soil, and they need to continue that today.
Doesn't half put some pressure on it though, does it? When they can't, when they're struggling to win games on the road, and you look at what last week feel like, what QPR felt like, the points that perhaps they could and should have on the board as well. Then it does create this pressure to maintain, particularly what they've done at home, and one slip up and one misstep, I guess, and it would leave you behind. I mean, in terms of that top 6 race, Paddy, it's interesting because West Brom, I hasten to mention it too much in your company, but they put Coventry away pretty convincingly last night. Obviously, it's a 7 point gap as we stand here today. I think basically if Norwich don't win today, you can forget West Brom. But do you feel now it is a case of what? So we're probably looking at Coventry, Preston, Norwich, Hull. Is it 4 if you want to put Sunderland in? Probably more so if they win today. So is it 5 now competing for one space, do you feel, in terms of that playoff mix?
Well, I'll take your point. I mean, if you don't do the business today and you
that's a 3-game swing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Albeit there are still double-figure games left. And I have to be honest, I'm still not convinced by West Brom. Norwich, I thought, comfortably put them away.
Very good at home, though, aren't
they? Well, they are. In the Boxing Day game, Sainz got himself sent off, so who knows, even though they were decidedly second best at 0-0 in that game at the Hawthorns. But I wouldn't categorically say that's 5th gone if they don't get the result today. But it goes back to my previous point. If you can't get a result today against this Sunderland team, who were 3 defeats on the road, they've got their best player in Clark missing today, who terrorised Norwich on Weir's side. And they've got all this instability. Tony Mowbray got them into the playoffs last season. He's gone. Mick Beale lasts less than 2 months. I can't exude a sense of everything's bright in the garden, and that's a club who are going to be able to sustain a top 6 push. So has to be a win today, and then we'll see. And if they win today, then that cuts the gap to West Brom to 4 points.
Yes,
that's more than pulling it. More than sort of recoverable for me, but. It's less the points, I think, and what will be left in the games that you'd have to make up the points. It's more the vibe and what that would say about Norwich's realistic chances if they can't, get the job done here today. Because as we've touched on liberally in this broadcast, they're not doing it away from home, so they have to do it at home.
Will they?
1-0.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking 2-1, but I've got to be honest, I've said this, I think, to you guys for a little while. I've got a little bit of concern about these next 2. Just feel like they could be ones that Norwich trip up in. Yeah. So it's and just to zoom out very, very quickly, and we won't make this too long, so we're going on quite long already. But what is a decent points return for Norwich this week across today, obviously, Borough, Rotherham, across those 3? What would you class as a good week for Norwich?
A good week. A 7 out of 9 for me would represent. You're still very much in the conversation. I think anything less than that, it begins to look like you're reliant too much on what other teams. I think 7 out of 9, while not directly controlling your own destiny, I think you are pretty much, because you're still going to be sufficiently close to the top 6, you would think, if you could return that haul. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think 6 and above would be a good win. Yeah, I'm probably there. I think anything above 6 and if they're not in the top 6 by the end of the week, then someone's done very, very well, namely Hull, I guess. So we shall see. And I think you see over the next few weeks, there are some interesting fixtures away from Norwich City, and the teams in and around the playoffs as they are today and last week. And Coventry have got to play Hull. There's a few interesting things to go. But as you said, Paddy, it's up to Norwich City to control and do what they can do before any of that becomes relevant. So we'll see what we get here this afternoon at Carrow Road. Beacon.com, the place to go. Plenty of analysis and reaction throughout the afternoon. Paddy will be speaking to David Wagner post-match as well. And let's hope the Norwich City's brilliant home form continues against Sunderland today. Thanks for watching.